Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Barakahak Wadash, Barakatum. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, glory, and infinite honors to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai. Double honors to the apostles and elders, a great millstone who ruled and teach well. In peace and salutations to you, sincere Akim out there, pushing this word in truth and sincerity to the four corners of the globe. May you brothers endure until the end. This is the brother Ra'aya coming at you with another lesson, and I'm going to start it off in Jeremiah chapter 18, verses 20 to 22. Shall evil be recompensed for good? For they have digged a pit for my soul. Remember that I stood before thee to speak good for them, and turn away thy wrath from them. And this is the prophet Jeremiah crying unto the Lord about how he went and prophesied before, the children of Israel, the southern kingdom at that time, which was still in the land, Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, warning them that the Babylonians were about to come down and, take them captive and take over their land. But what? They digged a pit, for Jeremiah. They threw him into a miry pit. They sought to put him to death. And it's no different than today for the prophets who are coming in the stead of Jeremiah. Here you have the men of the Lord, chiefly of GMS or Great Millstone, as well as the brothers coming in the spirit of GMS, out on the highways and byways preaching this word, as well as putting up video epistles like this online, telling you Israelites, or you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, that the modern day Babylonians, these Americans, these Edomites, or so-called white people, are about to come down in great wrath upon you. But what do the majority of our people do? Feign the hand, talk shit, take everything as a game, in the past, called the cops on brothers, thrown stuff on brothers, and if you could, put us to death. Well, let's see what the prophet Jeremiah had to say about those similar circumstances we're in right now. Therefore, deliver up their children to the famine, and pour out their blood by the force of the sword, and let their wives be bereaved of their children and be widows, and let their men be put to death, let their young men be slain by the sword in battle. He prayed for calamities to come upon, those rebellious Israelites. And when those Babylonians came in, they did exactly this. And just like Jeremiah, hey, it's to the point to where, we're praying for the Lord to quickly bring about this judgment to cut off you wicked 2/3 in America. And these modern day Babylonians are about to do the same thing, especially coming with that sword to make a great slaughter. Verse 22, let a cry be heard from their houses when thou shalt bring a troop suddenly upon them. For they have digged a pit to take me and hid snares for my feet. And the main point I wanted to hit on is where it says, thou shalt bring a troop suddenly upon them. This is an article from the mirror.com. Trump threatens city with National Guard and takeover of police force in a bid to tackle crime. And when the military gets involved in law enforcement, what is that? Martial law. A troop coming in suddenly. Hey, with each passing day, it's looking more and more like Donald Trump is this cruel Lord in Isaiah 19, verse 4. And the Egyptians, speaking of the spiritual Egyptians as pursuant to Revelation 11, verse 8, these Americans, specifically these Edomite Americans, but hey, you Israelites are living that Egyptian American lifestyle as well. And the Egyptians, the Americans, will I give over into the hand of a cruel Lord, and a fierce king shall rule over them, saith the Lord, Yahweh of hosts. And it seems like every other day Trump is threatening to use the military and even getting the military involved in things. Remember a couple of months ago with those ICE protests in California, the Marines got involved. And at a time they were talking about placing military all across the state, all across the country as well, to deal with similar issues. And then, as we're about to read in this article, Trump is wanting to get the National Guard to take over police duties. Hey, something major is coming down the pipeline. A state of martial law, anarchy, and chaos to where your own government is going to use the military against its citizens, especially you Israelites, because we are coming into the time of Jacob's trouble when Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai is about to bring great judgment upon the earth for all the wickedness you people have been committing, especially in America and especially, again, you Israelites. And, the northern kingdom of the 12 tribes, the so-called Latinos and the so-called Native Americans. But, the so-called Latinos right now are especially feeling it with these ICE raids and deportations. You've got a Northern Kingdom that can show that they're citizens and, that can't, both getting rounded up and getting deported and having, armed personnel come and haul them away. And then, of course, we can't forget Alligator Alcatraz, which is just a modern-day concentration camp, which I was watching a lesson by a brother the other day to where it was someone in Trump's administration that said Alligator Alcatraz was going to be the framework for how they're going to set up detention centers, not just for immigrants, but detention centers in general all across the country. But let's get into this article. Speaking from the Oval Office, Trump was asked about crime in the city and whether a takeover of the Metropolitan Police Department is an option on the table. Trump threatened to deploy the National Guard to Washington, D.C. in a federal takeover of police. And you may say, this is just in Washington, D.C. over crime. Well, again, Exhibit A, back in California when the Marines were deployed for those ICE, protests. Speaking from the Oval Office, Trump was asked about crime in the city and whether a takeover of the Metropolitan Police Department is an option on the table, to which Trump said, "We're considering it. Yeah, because the crime is ridiculous. We have a capital that's very unsafe. We just almost lost a young man, beautiful, handsome guy that got the hell knocked out of him the night before last," Trump said. "And when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them." He added, "This has to be the best run place in the country, not the worst run place in the country, and it has so much potential. It comes weeks after Trump deployed the National Guard to LA and a hard launch of immigration raids across the city, a move which sparked widespread protests. Last month, a federal judge ordered the Trump administration to stop indiscriminate immigration stops in 7 California counties, including Los Angeles, after immigrant advocacy groups filed a lawsuit alleging the administration was racially profiling brown-skinned people in Southern California during its immigration crackdown. The plaintiffs included 3 detained immigrants and 2 U.S. citizens, one who was held despite showing agents his identification. Hey, that fierce king and that cruel lord, not regarding the people or their rights. The filing in U.S. District Court asked a judge to block the administration from using what they call unconstitutional tactics in immigration raids. Immigrant advocates accuse immigration officials of detaining someone based on their race, carrying out warrantless arrests, and denying detainees access to legal counsel at a holding facility in downtown LA. Tricia McLaughlin, Assistant Secretary of the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, said in an email that any claims that individuals have been targeted by law enforcement because of their skin color are disgusting and categorically false. McLaughlin's statement, however, blatantly contradicts statements made by President Donald Trump's border czar, Tom Homan, Friday morning on Fox News, where he said that ICE agents don't need probable cause to detain people and can target individuals based on physical appearance. And have they been targeting, these Moabites, or so-called Chinese, these these so-called East Indians or Elamites, these South Africans that they brought into the country? No, they've been mainly targeting you so-called Latinos, because you are of the northern kingdom of Israel. People need to understand ICE officers and Border Patrol don't need probable cause to walk up to somebody, briefly detain them, and question them based on their physical appearance, Holman said. Judge Mammy E. Frimpong also issued a separate order barring the federal government from restricting attorneys' access at a Los Angeles immigration detention facility. Frimpong issued the orders the day after a hearing during which advocacy groups argued that the government was violating the Fourth and Fifth Amendments of the Constitution, which what has Donald Trump been trying to get rid of, pretty much where it says that, if you were born in this country, that makes you a citizen. He's trying to get rid of birthright citizenship, so trampling over the Constitution, over your amendments, over your rights. Immigrant and Latino communities have been on edge for weeks as the Trump administration has ramped up deportation efforts in Southern California, leading to several high-profile incidents. Weeks of protests and the deployment of National Guard and Marines in Los Angeles against Governor Gavin Newsom's consent. Heavily armed and masked ICE agents. And information's coming out that a lot of these ICE agents are just, bounty hunters pretending to be ICE agents, and cartel pretending to be ICE agents as well, rounding up people for who knows what. Have been targeting Home Depot parking lots, car washes, immigration courts, and a range of businesses. And it starts off, as we say at GMS, the Northern Kingdom gets it first, but the Southern Kingdom gets it the worst. It started off with you Northern Kingdom, but with the way Trump's moving now, it's starting to pivot towards the Southern Kingdom. Are you so-called Negroes, so-called blacks, so-called African Americans, West Indians as well? They're coming after Haitian and Jamaican, immigrants. And a lot of Jakes that are civil rights lawyers are speculating on whether, so-called black American citizens can get deported as well. So, this devil is about to come down in great wrath, and you Israelites are going to be dead in his crosshairs. And why is that? Because you're rebellious, hard-headed, and refuse to return to your power or listen to his men that are out prophesying. You scoffed at Jeremiah in the past. You scoffed at the men today. A troop came against you back then, and that troop is about to come in like a flood upon you again. This is Ezekiel chapter 21, verse 9. Son of man, prophesy and say, Thus saith Yahweh, say a sword is sharpened and also furbished. It is sharpened to make a sword slaughter. It is furbished that it may glitter. Should we then make mirth? It contemneth the rod of my son as every tree. Verse 11. And he hath given it to be furbished, that it may be handled. The sword is furbished, and the sword is sharpened, and it is furbished to give it into the hand of the slayer. And when you go to Psalms chapter 17, verse 13, the sword of the Lord is the wicked. And when you go to Malachi 1, verse 4, the wicked, the border of wickedness, are these Edomites, or so-called white people. So this slayer that's about to get that great sword to furbish it is going to be these Edomites. And who's it coming against? Cry and howl, son of man, for it shall be upon my people. It shall be upon all the princes of Israel, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, young, old, men, women, and children. Terrors by reason of the sword shall be upon my people. Smite therefore upon thy thigh. And remember what Tom Holman said in that article. ICE doesn't need an identification, and we can profile based on physical identification. And black and brown, so to speak, is going to be the color of caution. But now I'm going to close it out in 2nd Esdras chapter 16 in the Apocrypha, verses 70 to 72. For there shall be in every place and in the next cities a great insurrection upon those that fear the Lord, you Israelites. And, we're seeing it happen with the Northern Kingdom right now. As I said back in that article, you know, ICE is raiding parking lots, Home Depot, they're raiding, farmlands, etc., etc. But it's eventually going to trickle down to the rest of the tribes. They shall be like madmen. National Guard, domestic troops, foreign troops, because it's going to get to a point to where everybody in America is going to be getting targeted, and a lot of these troops are going to want to stand down because they believe in the Constitution, but they've already got a foreign army that came across those borders in numbers during Biden's presidency, waiting to get the go ahead to continue business as usual. NATO troops, UN, mercenaries, etc., etc. Then you got, these robots out here, which they're pushing out more and more into the public. And these robots ain't just going to be here to, clean up your floor or make you a mojito. They're going to be punching in your face. They shall be like madmen, sparing none, but still spoiling and destroying those that fear the Lord. For they shall waste and take away their goods and cast them out of their houses, rounding them up, sending them to detention centers, concentration camps, breaking up their families, etc., etc. But as it said, and cast them out of their houses. Let's go back to that Jeremiah 18, verse 22. Let a cry be heard from their houses when thou shalt bring a troop suddenly upon them. So that's it with this video. With this video, I hope you sincere, Akim and Akwath, were edified. Just keep strong. We are almost out of this final wicked captivity of the heathen nations, chiefly of the Edomites. And as always, I'm going to say Abad Babol, Kwam Yasharallah, and until next time, Shalom. Shalom, Akim. This is just an addendum to this video because a brother just posted this in our chat, and this goes perfectly well with the information previously used in this lesson. But this is an article from BucksCountyBeacon.com. Leaked DHS memo shows Trump administration wants to deploy military on city streets to hunt down migrants. Hey, again, back in that Jeremiah 18, I believe it was verse 22, and suddenly shall they come through their house like a troop. Northern Kingdom gets it first, Southern Kingdom gets it the worst. And this whole immigration issue and deportations is nothing more than a Trojan horse to have military troops on the streets of America, justify these detention camps popping up all over the country, and ultimately bring about a state of martial law and draconian measures. We sit at the crossroads of history and a turning point for the country, warns Buck County military veteran Steve Nolan. A leaked Department of Homeland Security internal memo obtained by the New Republic shows the Trump administration is pushing for a massive deployment of military troops for domestic law enforcement targeting immigrants in America's largest cities. So again, with that article in earlier in this lesson, he wanted to use the National Guard for regular policing because crime's getting out of control in Washington, D.C. Hey, hitting the Southern Kingdom, who are looked at as criminals out here, and getting the military to be used for immigration, going after you Northern Kingdom. This should worry everyone. The memo was written by Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth's younger brother Phil, a senior advisor to DHS Secretary Kristi Noem, and DHS liaison officer to the Defense Department. Phil, whose experience includes founding his own podcast production company and working on social media and podcasts at the Hudson Institute, is pushing a narrative that drug cartels and other criminal elements are the number one threat to national security. And, those drug cartels are speaking of what? Those that are south of the border, which, are the Northern Kingdom, so-called Latinos. So again, like Tom Homan said, hey, we don't need a identification to decide whether we arrest someone or not. We just need physical, identification based on your skin color. Is pushing the narrative that drug cartels and other criminal elements are the number one threat to national security, akin to Al Qaeda or ISIS cells and fighters operating freely inside America. Never mind the real and present dangers countries like Russia and China pose. And despite Trump and the GOP's budget increasing ICE spending more than $170 billion over 4 years to supercharge the administration's mass deportation plans, not to mention DHS recently lowering the age limit to 18 for ICE recruits, that's not enough. This administration wants military boots on domestic soil deployed to fight illegal immigration. The memo is alarming because it speaks to the intent to use the military within the United States at a level not seen since Japanese internment. Carrie Lee, senior fellow at the German Marshall Fund, told the New Republic's Greg Sargent, the military is the most powerful coercive tool our country has. We don't want the military doing law enforcement. It absolutely undermines the rule of law. And if you know about anything during World War II, after Pearl Harbor, FDR, put a plan in place to round up Japanese Americans. I believe the majority of it happened in California into internment camps. Hey, what's happened before, damn sure can and will happen again. Nothing new under the sun. But real quick, this is 2 Esdras chapter 15, verse 17. A man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able. What does that sound like? A state of martial law where you're going to have the correct identification to move around anywhere. Hey, with these Northern Kingdom, and they'd be afraid to go into a city or anywhere now because what? You've got ICE roaming the streets. And as things progress and we do get into a state of martial law, hey, anybody deemed an enemy of the state is, gonna have to be moving a certain kind of way. Because if you get caught, hey, you're gonna get rounded up and brought somewhere else. And also, let's get this while we're at it. This is Revelation chapter 2, verse 10. Fear none of those things which thou shalt suffer. Behold, the devil, or the deceiver, the physical counterpart of the spiritual demon Satan, Esau, Edom, shall cast some of you into prison that ye may be tried. And hey, some of the men of the Lord are going to get rounded up, in this and cast into prisons, these detention centers, these concentration camps. And ye shall have tribulation 10 days, which just means a complete amount of trials for whatever your lot is. Be thou faithful unto death, because some of us will be martyrs for this truth, and I will give thee a crown of life. Hey, if you endure whatever comes your way like a good soldier of Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai, you'll be of that elect number and receive, that crown of life. But, just bringing it back, the memo is alarming because it speaks to the intent to use the military within the United States at a level not seen since Japanese internment, which included concentration camps. A man shall desire to go into a city but will not be able to. The devil shall cast some of you into prison. From Bucks County Beacon's Twitter page, opinion, national security under the Mad King, Donald Trump. Hey, a fierce king and a cruel lord shall rule over them. Congress has repeatedly allowed themselves to be gaslighted throughout Trump's presidency and his repeated dereliction of duty, writes Bucks County military veteran Stephen Nolan. We'll read this last paragraph. This Homeland Security memo is actually a manifestation of Project 2025's telegraphed takeover plans for our military, starting with a decapitation of leadership and an outlined witch hunt to root out leadership, which would put their allegiance to the Constitution over Trump and the MAGA agenda. The number of problems with this thinking are too numerous for one essay. Suffice to say, it threatens the very core of military readiness worldwide and undermines the only oath of military service to defend the Constitution. Our previous Secretary of Defense, James Mattis, addressed the American public after federal forces were employed against American citizens exercising their constitutional rights at Washington, D.C.'s Lafayette Square. Mattis declared that Trump was the first president who has no interest in uniting the American people and had no interest even in the appearance of unity. Some of America's greatest military heroes have felt it was their duty to warn us. Yeah, that's pretty much it with this article. But hey, a time not like no other is quickly coming down the pipeline. A time of Jacob's trouble where, for you rebellious Israelites, Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai is about to bring that great wrath upon you. Just as in the past you didn't take heed to the prophets and that judgment came, no different today. And for the rest of you heathens out there, you don't have a snowball's chance in hell of making it through it. But again, I hope this was an edifying lesson. And I'm going to say Abad Babal, Kwam Yasharallah, and until next time, Shalom.